today to share my knowledge and also to learn from you. So I'm excited to be here. I would go ahead and share my presentation now.
There we go.
Okay, so I'm going to put it on presentation mode. Great. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, we see your screen.
Okay. That's good. So I will just go ahead with my presentation. So today our topic is protecting your idea, innovation, and products. Edwin has done a fantastic job of introducing me. So I will just move over from this slide. The summary is I have 12 years combined in-house and legal firm practice. So you're in the right place. You will be getting the right information to assist you with your businesses. And I hope at the end of this presentation, we can rub minds on what you've learned so I can also learn from you. I have just one ground rule. I would not be taking questions during the presentation. So you could drop your questions in the chat room and then I can address them once we're done with the presentation.
No, actually, they will ask questions after the presentation. Then.
Oh, great! That's fantastic. Then,
yeah.
So that we don't get distracted.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. Yes.
It seems your screen is freezing because you.
So what I did, yes, my screen is freezing. So I stopped showing my screen, so that because it's freezing. I hope. Let me try once more. See. From my end, it's freezing. Is it still freezing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so please pardon me. I would switch off my video. I see that my audio is better, so I'll just switch off my video right now and proceed with my presentation. As I said earlier, our topic for today is protecting your idea, innovation, and products. The objective of this presentation is that at the end of this topic discussion, I would expect that you would know what to do and how to protect your ideas, your innovation, and products. I would also expect that you would understand that these fundamentals, that's ideas, your innovation and products, impact greatly on your business strategy, your model, and eventually on your bottom line, that's your profitability. As Steve Jobs said, you need to manage the top line, that is your strategy, your people, your
Sorry, Tosin, I think your screen is still freezing. It doesn't really move from where it was.
So what can you see my, I'm on a slide saying presentation topic.
Okay, that's protecting your idea, innovation, and product, right?
Yes, and then can you see the Steve Jobs picture there and quotes?
Are you on that slide now?
Yes, I'm on that slide.
No, we can't see it. It's still on the first slide.
Okay, so can you present? Why don't you present? You have the slides. Can you present it from your end?
Okay. I think someone will do that right now.
Thank you. Since my audio is perfect. Apologies for the glitches. Okay. So I should.
All right, so we're good to go.
Okay, so we're on page 3, the slide 3. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So on the slide, we have Steve Jobs' quote saying that we need to manage the timeline, top line, that is your strategy, your people, your products, and the bottom line will follow. Bottom line being your profitability. So you need to look at the overall idea, your innovation, your products. And in doing that, you need to consider your business strategy. You need to also consider the people, that is your business partners, your investors, your employees. They're all part of the package, and then your products. At the end of the day, that you'll be able to arrive at the bottom line, which is your profitability. So can we move to the next slide? Okay, so we have the table of contents. The focus is to, educate you, to enlighten you on how to protect your assets. That's your idea, your innovation, your product. And then when it comes to securing funds, you also have to consider your assets at that point so that you make sure you're securing your assets, that's your IP, your employees, every aspect of your business, your intellectual property, and every other thing that you have you have developed and put in your organization. So in that part, you also have to protect your assets. Can we move back to the next slide? I'm really excited that this presentation is coming at this point, because this is a period when businesses are fine-tuning or concluding their corporate objectives for the year. I expect that, at the end of this presentation, you will come up with action points on how to, action points that will cover your product life cycle. That's from the ideation points to the innovation, and then to when your product is going live and to the market. So you need to come up with action points that will go into your corporate objective on how you would protect your assets. And on the long run, those assets play a big role on your business strategy and your model, and definitely your profitability at the end of the year, at the end of the corporate financial year. So for this slide, we have definition. So it's important to identify the stage where you are in your product cycle. And for each of the stages, there are particular activities that you must carry out in order to protect your business. Can we move on to the next slide? For the ideation process, this is the time when you're just probably sitting down in your room, and all of a sudden there's a light bulb, and there's a burst of inspiration, and an idea comes to your mind, and you're wondering, what do I do with it? For me, I would usually just get my journal on my phone, that's my notepad. And once I get my notepad, I am jotting down my ideas and what to do. My next point of action would probably be to call my friend and just rub the idea, rub minds on the idea so that we can flesh it out. For software developers, they would, most times they will be in a hub where they can brainstorm together, sketch, have user stories, and from there, they're formulating those ideas. What you would also observe, there's always this silent fear within us, especially in the tech industry. You're always afraid that at this point, this idea is fresh. You do not want anyone to steal it. So there's the fear of tech. You're sharing your ideas with your colleagues. Excuse me. You're also sharing your ideas with business partners who you would expect would buy into your business proposition. There's the fear that they could take that idea, give it to another organization or another team to develop. There's also the part of where they would imitate that idea and come up with something better than what you have taught. So that fear is there. But however, when we have those fears, it's very important that we also realize that this is the formation stage, where if you let your fear hinder the creativity and the feedback you would get from your colleagues, you might actually be killing the idea before it formulates. So we have to be very careful at this point, to be cautious. We're cautious of the fears, but we shouldn't let the fear drive us. So in doing that, we should come up with strategies. We should come up with strategies that would enable us protect our ideas at this point. The Nigerian Copyright Act, which is one of Nigerians, the government. Okay, so the Nigerian Copyright Act is an act set up by the government to protect idea in the country. Because once you have ideas, you have creativity. And once you have creativity, at the end of the day, it helps our economical growth. And once there's economical growth, obviously, there's revenue, investors are coming into the country. So the government sees it as very important, and so has set up the Copyright Act and several other intellectual property regulations and statutes just to protect the idea formulation period and when it's even proceeding to innovation. But it's very important to note that because you have an idea doesn't mean that it's protected. Your idea is not protected. You have to express it, and expressing it could be that if it's musical, you could write one or two lyrics online, just people know that it's your lyric. You could sing it. Maybe you don't even have a record deal yet. You could go online, sing a portion of it. What you're doing is expressing it and letting people putting your time stamp on it, so people know that this idea belongs to you. So for us in the tech industry, the steps to take is to document all communication. So while you're at this point, you should always make use of your emails. I would suggest you use email communication. And so you always document all your communications at this point. I know there are different options. There's the Slack, there's WhatsApp, there's several other options, but email has this formality to it. So it's important that once you have your discussion, you always go back and say, oh, but that's our discussion we had earlier today was fantastic. And then you say, oh, I brought up this idea. You also brought up this idea. Okay, so the action points going forward is this. So it's important to document all your communication. At this point, yes, you can have a non-disclosure agreement, but usually, it's still an idea. And if you approach a business investor and say, oh, I want to pitch my idea to you, and this is my NDA, they might, have cold faith because this is still an idea. So the smart way to go around it is to, when you're presenting your business plan, is to watermark it. So you watermark your document, state that it is confidential, and obviously still pass it by email, because when you pass it by email, there's a timestamp on it. So that helps provide some leverage and some coverage and protection, should in case anything happens in future when there's an infringement. Then I would also advise and recommend highly that when you are at this stage of the ideation, you should come up with a prototype. So the idea is not fully formed, but you could come up with a prototype whereby you have like one or two features of what you've thought about, or even just one feature of it. Just come up with a prototype and then have it published. What this does is that there's also a timestamp, that you thought about this idea and then you're publishing it. Everyone knows, people can go and see it, that it's your idea. And then at this point, you might have come up with trademarks or it's trademarks. And trademarks are more like, maybe you come up with a catchphrase, like a slogan or a mark or like a symbol, a logo. At this point, you can register it. You can register it at this point because this is the ideation period, and you are still thinking of how to flesh out the idea. So that's for the ideation process. Can we move to the next slide? Yes, innovation. Now, innovation without execution is only ideation. So the thing is, if you do not execute, it only remains an idea. And so you need to execute. Immediately you execute, it immediately becomes an innovation that you can commercialize, that you can put your mark on it and say, oh, this is mine. And so, and it comes in different forms when it comes to innovation. There's some innovations that can be commercialized. So for that ones that can be commercialized, then you're thinking of registering them, registering the trademark, the intellectual property. And there's some innovations, well, I won't call it innovation, I'll call it an invention. So there's a difference between innovation and invention. So an invention is not necessarily directly associated with commercialization. An invention is a generation of a new idea aimed at solving a specific technical problem. But this invention is not going into markets. An innovation concerns the commercialization of that new idea. And for us, this is the period where you're receiving feedback, you're interacting. This is the product development stage. This is the stage where you have the product managers come in. You have product design. You have you have the marketing coming at this point. Everyone is working together to see how the products can go to market. So at this point, you're still brainstorming, but you're already coming up with structures and a solution. And it's still an ongoing process. And the thing about innovation is even when you come up with a product, innovation, it's a repeated process. So it's a process you keep repeating over and over. So even though you have a product that it seems to be complete, it's never complete because you keep innovating. And when you keep innovating, it could be that you're changing the slogans, you could be changing the business model, you could be changing the platforms, including integrating new other platforms or solutions. So it's a constant process. So we should bear in mind that because you're done with your product, you can't be done with protecting your innovation. You can't be done with it. So as you keep innovating, you have to keep in mind that you have to protect your assets. And so for intellectual property, what is intellectual property? This is a right that is given to you to restrain third parties from dealing with goods, services, and processes that evolve from your creativity. So it's very important that you understand that you need to protect it. Unlike the ideation process where the ideas are still forming, at this point, you have a structure, you understand the basis of your solution. And so there are already elements of innovation in what you have created, in your creativity. And so you need to categorize categorize and register your IP. And how do you do that? First of all, you need to look at your solution, your innovation, and say, okay, do I have trade secrets? I have trade secrets in this solution, or is it patents, or is it trademarks, industrial designs, copyright? You need to be able to identify what you have in that solution, and that would enable you register the right IP. So for copyright, especially in the tech industry, we're talking about software. If you're talking about platforms, integrations with different that covers trade secrets. But what we do have, we have the competition, the federal, I try to remember the name very well, but it's like our competition law that that covers monopoly, how monopoly, unfair market practices. So we have that law that covers trade secrets. For patents, trademarks, industrial designs, and copyright, the Nigerian government has set aside acts, the statutes to protect these assets. Now, in terms of steps to take, when you're protecting your innovation, at this point, it's mandatory that you have a non-disclosure agreement. So non-disclosure agreements with your business partners, non-disclosure agreements with your employees. If you have investors coming in at this point, they also need to sign off on a non-disclosure agreement, because at this point, your creativity, your solution already has elements of innovation. So you need to protect it. And I usually get questions about how do you enforce your non-disclosure agreement in Nigeria. And I usually say that, it's enforceable. The law is there. It's just how do you ignite it? How do you make it alive? And so for you to do that, you always have to, you need to know the law and know how to apply it. For the NDA, for people that are not too conversant with what I mean by NDA, this is a non-disclosure agreement. It's a legally binding agreement that establishes a confidential relationship. The parties entering into this agreement understand that this is sensitive information that they will be sharing. And for that reason, they would need to sign off so that parties understand that they have obligations to keep those information that are sensitive, confidential, and not to disclose to third parties. Now, when you have those NDAs, there are also exclusions. So there's some information that can be excluded, such as information that the government has demanded to know. So for that, there may be a clause in the NDA that says, okay, if such incidences occur, please let us know the information you'll be sharing with the government. There is also the exclusion that could also be stated in the NDA that any information that is already available in the public would not be contained or would not be covered in this non-disclosure agreement. So those are like some exclusions in the NDA. And then for the NDA, the enforceability, when you have an issue where the other party has infringed on your rights, where the other party has disclosed confidential information to the public or to a third party, or when you find out that the defaulting party, that's your partner, the other party, has taken that sensitive information and used it to obtain some financial benefits. For that reason, you can go to court. And what most times the relief you would get is that the court can give an injunction relief, restraining or compelling the defaulting party to stop releasing that information. The court can also ask for an account of profits. So what I mean by account of profits, the illegal profit that has been made, from that release or disclosure of that information will be brought, the account will be brought to court and will be declared. And once there is declaration of that account, then you can get damages. You can ask for a refund, you can ask that they reimburse you for losses, or that you even share in the profits. So these are applicable in Nigeria. It's enforceable in Nigeria. I put on the slide, you see an example of a case that was decided at the Nigeria Industrial Court. And in this case, it's an employee relationship. And in this situation, confidential information was released to third parties. In your spare time, you could go and online, search for the case and read more on it. But in this case, all the release had mentioned, like, in terms of the damages, account for profit, restraining the defaulting party, they all come to play in this case. So you can go and read up on that later. So at this stage, again, at this innovation stage, you should register your intellectual properties. As I had said, you have to categorize it first. So you know where, what exactly you're registering, and then you proceed to register it. And then at this point, you also have to have a founder's agreement, and then register the business enterprise, because at this, that you're going into commercialization. The business is coming up. There are elements, there are established elements in this aspect. You already know that the business is going to market. So you should have a founder's agreement at this point. You should have the business registered. You should have your non-disclosure agreement put in place with your people. So your people being your employees, your business partners, so that everyone understands that, who owns the rights, what we're doing as an organization, our responsibilities, and it is clear from the beginning. It's clear from the beginning. Can we have the next slide? Yes. This slide is on the registration of IP rights. Further to what I said earlier, this is just to expatiate more on registration of IP rights. So as I said earlier, that the Nigerian government has established regulatory bodies and statutes that would address the creativity in the country and try as much as possible to protect the creativity that emanates from the youths and just from the organizations generally. So we have the Trademark Act, we have the Patents and Design Act, we have the Copyright Act. And besides these other regulatory bodies, because they have registries, besides these regulatory bodies, registries, there are other organizations, other registries that handle IP registration. So you have the NOTAB, that is the National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion. So for NOTAB, NOTAB is set up to monitor the transfer of foreign technology. So they monitor the transfer. And this has, until you read the act, you would think that you're supposed to register all your businesses, your IP with NOTAB. And, because we have businesses whereby, like, platforms whereby you have international organizations, you're integrating your platforms or international organizations. And so you would think that you're supposed to register with NOTAB, but that's not the case, because if you read the act and if you read other case laws, what NOTAB is to do is that if you have any financial obligation that would have to go through the CBN, then you need to register your business with NOTAB. So it's in terms of financial obligations. If you have to make any payment through CBN, you need to register with NOTAB. Because payments will be made up, mostly when you have international partners. You would have to make payments through the CBN to your international partners. So at this point, you need to register the agreement, not the IP. You register the agreement that you have signed with your international partners with NOTAB. Then we also have the Standard Organization of Nigeria. This agency is set up to standardize the methods of production. So production also covers the IT industry, tech generally. So because we're producing products and equipments. So either they are manufactured in Nigeria or they are imported. The standard organization of Nigeria needs to be informed. Then we also have NAFDAC, that's the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control. So they also handle registrations pertaining to the food and drug industry. I just wanted to put that there for you to understand that it is a wide spectrum of regulatory bodies that are handling different aspects of production, manufacturing, anything that has to do with creativity. It's a wide spectrum that the government covers. The Constitution of Nigeria also, is also concerned about, your copyrights, the IP rights that we own. So it's not, it's a very serious matter. Even the Constitution, covers the enforceability. So if your rights are infringed upon, the Constitution of Nigeria covers copyright infringement and also states the processes, how you can go about it, getting your relief, get your reliefs from the court granted. Can we move over to the next slide? Yes, thank you very much. Now, we have spoken about the idea stage. We have also spoken about the innovation stage. So we are going now to products. Now for products, you already have a product that is already commercial, that is already going to market. You're already sure. You're done with the process. You're sure that it's going to market. You have, you also understand that you need to have protection, your IP protection, the trademarks, they're already sorted. But there are other concerns. There are other areas that you need to consider to protect your products going into market. First of all is the regulatory concerns. When you're preparing your business model, that's for when it comes to products management, the business analyst, when you're coming together to have a business model and a strategy for your products. You will need to navigate different cross-border complexities of the law, compliance, policies, bearing in mind that, the way the world is right now, the way tech is right now, everything is global. Tech is global. So you have platforms that are being integrated together from different parts of the world. You have investors, international investors coming in to do business. You have emerging technologies that like the Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, AI, IoT, and you're integrating those solutions into your platform. So it is a bigger challenge going into the market at this point because you need to look at the regulatory terrain. You need to understand the issues. What are the laws? What are the compliance issues? What are the policies that I need to put in place for my product to fly? You need to consider, so for example, if it's a fintech product, then you need to get licenses. You cannot do business in Nigeria, particularly without the license from CBN. So if it's a product that has to do with financial services, you need to get different licenses. So it could be a switching and processing license. It could be a regulatory sandbox license. It could be that it's a payment solution license. It could be a mobile money operation license. So there are different parameters that you have to meet to get these licenses. So those are the regulatory concerns. When we also go to compliance, the product itself, you're also considering that you want your product to be positioned globally. So you're considering the data, because obviously every product will have to do with data, and in doing that, you need to consider the data protection regulations, be it in the EU be it in Nigeria, you need, particularly in the areas you will be transacting in. Areas you'll be transacting in, you need to be, you need to understand the laws and the compliance issues that might arise. So for example, in Nigeria, we have the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation. This regulation is involving personal data processing, and it mandates that you have different parameters to be met on your product. So you need to ensure that you're getting the consent of your users, that's the data owners. You also need to explain to the data owners what you're using the data for, how you'll be processing it, how you would keep it, how you would delete it. You need to have how you have a structure for cybersecurity. So you just need to have all that in place before your product goes live, before your product goes to market. And when it comes to licenses, as I said earlier, it varies. These licenses vary. So if your product is into investment, there's a difference between savings and investment. So if your product is going into investments, you need to get your license from the Securities Exchange Commission. So you all need to understand what your product does and how the law and compliance affects your products. And that this is different from, securing your IP rights. This has to also do with securing your business model and securing your strategy. You find that, a lot of fintechs, they have this issue, and obviously because of the regulatory issues we have in the country, we especially, with emerging technologies. So you need to find a way to collaborate. So sometimes when there are issues where you're trying to do a business and then you see the loophole, so you try to collaborate with organizations that already have licenses. So for example, you find that mobile money operators are, if they cannot get the license, then they would have to collaborate with licensed banks and other payment organizations. And collaborations would require the approval of CBN. So before you even go into, after the collaborations, even before you eventually implement, you need to get the approval of the CBN, that's the Central Bank of Nigeria, for you to implement that collaboration. So those are the regulatory concerns that you need to consider before you push your product into market. It is a big challenge for creative people like us, tech people, because you have come up with a solution, you're excited, you've had your team brainstorm, you've come up with an innovation, you've registered your IP, and you want to push it into market, but the government is telling you, you need to get your license. And then to get these licenses, you have to cough out a lot of money sometimes to get these licenses, or most times you have to cough out a lot of money to get these licenses. In terms of compliance, you'd also need, as I mentioned earlier, the data compliance. There is also the fact that the NDPR has also stated that you must have, there's a body, okay, so they're licensed, I'm trying to find the word now. So they're licensed organizations that would audit, that's the word, that actually come to your organization to audit your products, or to audit your processes, to ensure that you are complying with the NDPR regulation. And that is done every March of every year, starting from 2019. So the regulation came out in 2019, and since then, it's functioning because as of, I think it was last year, I was reading up about some organization that is a debt how will I put it? So it's an organization that provides money, debts to customers. So it's an online application. And when you come on the online application, you don't need any guarantee compared to the banking sector. All you have to do is to download the app and then put in the money you want, and you would be credited with the money. But what the downside to that is that in the whole process of you, the process of you getting the money, they get access to your data and to your phone directory. And once they get access to your phone directory, because the debtor, or let's say the debtor has agreed to, has given consent to giving his phone directory, that is done. But the NDPR is saying now that we don't have an issue with you having business transactions with your customers, but you can't take those information, those directory, and start sending out mails. When there's a default by your customer, you can't just now start sending mails to your customers. And one of these companies was actually fined by the NDPR last year. I would try before the end of this. I could share more information on that company and what they did and what NDPR had stated. So when it comes to securing funding, also at these aspects, you need to be wise in how you handle it. You need to evaluate your cost. You need to evaluate the best option for financing. You need to come up with an elaborate business plan, and then also consider different financing options. The one that will give you the best value proposition for your business. At this point, you also have to have a non-disclosure agreement for your due diligence process. The due diligence process is most times you will be given a questionnaire if you come from the investors. They want to know about your business. They want to know about your processes. They want to know about your registrations. They want to know about trade secrets. So at this point, it's very essential that you sign non-disclosure agreements with these investors. Also, you could also include non-poaching clauses, include non-poaching clauses for a period. Because if you're exposing your talents at this point, so you should have that, because they're coming into your organization to see your trade secrets, to see what you're doing. And so to protect your organization, you can include non-poaching clauses. Then it's important you register your intellectual property to set that. And then to make informed decisions, engage the services of a team of accountants, financial analysts, corporate and M&A transaction lawyers. That's mergers and acquisition transaction lawyers. You cannot do it alone. You need help at this point. No one is an island, so you need help at this point to get this done. Can we move to the next slide? So just to recap, we're almost, I'm almost concluding. Just to recap, why do we need to protect our ideas, our innovations, and our products? Because it's a major business driver. And we can see several examples. You can see in Nigeria, the Flutterwave, the Paystack, the Remitter, overseas, we can see the Microsofts and Amazon. So we can see that your IP is a major business driver for you. It's major to your your financials. It's major to your people. It's major to your business transaction, to your business model and strategy. So it's a major business driver. Besides that, another thing we need to also remember is that when it comes to regulatory compliance, it's a two-way sword. So it can bring about a positive impact and also a negative impact. Positive impact being that it helps with quality assurance when it comes to how you deliver your products and services, ensuring that your standards are globally acceptable. It also ensures that you can transact globally because you're complying with all the regulations. Then on the other end, when you don't comply, it comes about it comes up with fines, penalties, and which would definitely negatively impact on your bottom line. And what does that mean? To impact on your profitability. So when you're supposed to be getting 100 billion, you might be fined 50 billion as a fine. And so at the end of the day, it's eating deep into your profits. Can we go to the next slide? So this is me saying, do you have questions? I'm open to your questions at this point. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Tosin. You've been very fantastic. I've learned a lot. I'm surprised I didn't learn this much from you when we worked together. But I will assume that you were mean to me. I didn't share this information with me then, but that's fine. So I've taken so many notes. So look, we can't overflow this matter. It's usually you have cases where, oh, you are damned if you do, you are damned if you don't, right? But in this matter of law, you are damned if you don't. There's no upside for you if you don't follow the rules, and it's because a lot of ideas have been killed. Fantastic business have been killed because many times the founders don't pay attention to these details about registering their ideas. I mean, I've worked with a startup that was about 4 years ago, and they were making their pitch to a bank, and they did not sign a disclosure in an NDA with the bank. And after they made their pitch to the bank, and the bank strung them along for a couple of months. After a while, they just said they don't get interested. And a couple of months later, the idea that they shared with them was utilized by the bank, and they couldn't do anything about it because when they asked the lawyer said that you didn't sign an NDA. You didn't share, there's no clause that says that there's no clause that says an idea is an idea until it's implemented, right? You can't, an idea ideas come a dime per dozen. That's a painful truth. So whatever idea you think you're thinking about right now, I can promise you that about 15, 20 people have the same idea, if not more than that. 1,000 people have the same idea. The best people, the people who go forward, who are successful at that particular venture, are those who can implement one, and those who have legal rights for that particular idea. So it doesn't matter if you had an idea, you built it in your mind, or you built a product and you put it in your room, someone else built the same product and goes and registers it. It's his product. And if you go and implement that product, it can sue you for a breach of IP theft or something about that, something like that. I don't know. So this is the things that we need to really take cognizance of, right? We need to take cognizance of these things. We need to be able to, we need to know how to do it. We need to know when to do it. We need to know where to do it. And it's only for the best for your startup, right? And for your business and for your idea, your innovation, and your product, right? So I'm happy we're having this today. Thank you, Tosin, for really breaking it down. And I like the fact that you didn't just talk, you actually quoted some legal references, which as a lawyer, well, I guess this comes to territory. But I mean, we are seeing this in real time, and we are seeing, I really appreciate the work you put in to making this presentation. And very well researched and very, we can tell that you know what we are talking about, right? So at this point in time, I want to open the floor for those who have questions. I can see there's already a question in the group, and so in the chat, or 2 questions. Oh, you've already, you can see there's already a conversation going on without me, and I'm jealous, but it's fine. But then someone asked a question and wants to speak. So Jubril, please unmute your mic and ask a question, please. Jubril, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. I think my question is a little bit kind of multifolded, if I can use that word. A bit of it has been asked by Benedicta about IP. Now, throughout the presentation, I kind of had a feeling that the discussion is only meant for perhaps maybe unicorns or, you know, Series A type of businesses. So this is what I'm saying. So for instance, I have an idea, and I've never had, this is the first time I'm even trying an attempt towards entrepreneurship. How do I start? I'm hearing of IPs, I'm hearing of, you know, getting, in short, your concluding thoughts were getting like intellectual property lawyers and all those big names. And I'm wondering, I only have 50K. How can I get all of these things, right? So what I'm asking essentially is, I have an idea. What do I do to secure this idea? Just having a landing page, for instance, constitute as ownership of the idea. One, okay, if this does not constitute as ownership of idea, what about if I'm not going to be the one to do the prototyping myself? If I need to engage, for instance, a software developer, how do I still protect my idea if I do not yet have money for IP, to get a lawyer, to get all of those big things that you talked about, the NDPR, or even to even register the business. Registering a business today costs about, I think, like 35, 50K. So what are these, you know, thin lines that of, okay, ownership of the idea, securing your idea, and going big? That's the first level. The second level is, in the case of, let's say, for instance, a flutter wave. Now, when I have a flutter wave and I come up with an idea of a barter, which is one of their products, do I need to, do I need to create a parallel LLC registration for that? Or how do I incorporate such an idea within the existing, let's say, flutter wave in this case? What are these, you know, steps that I can do to preserve and conserve my IP? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jibril, for that, for the questions. For the first one, I will just go very practical on that. And the thing, what I would say is that I'm big on collaborations. Let me see if I can put on my my video at this point. Let's see. So I'm a firm believer of, I think my video is still.
Yeah, let's just go back to what we did before.
Okay, let's just continue. Yes. I'm very big on collaboration. You have an idea, you don't have the resources. So you need to approach people. So before you do that, if you realize during my presentation, if you noticed, I broke it down into phases. So I can see that you're in the first phase, the ideation process. You have an idea. You must have spoken with one or two people. You have a landing page, which is great. That means you're expressing your creativity, your idea. So there's a timestamp on that. Fine. Well, how do you get the resources to push it forward? So I'll give you an example. I'm big on social impact. I'm big on helping women and girls find, especially in the area of gender-based violence. So, and there's a story to that. It's a long story. But the thing is, there is a lady that she's a social worker, and that is what she does. And I have had a personal experience whereby my friend went through gender-based violence. And so she approached me, because I already have, I have that experience. So she approached me and said, oh, I'm thinking we can use media and technology to assist people so that anywhere in Nigeria, they can have access to the information she has gathered over the years. And I'm like, I bought into the idea immediately. So I said, fine, I can help you, with this kind of idea, because, it is a social impact work. It would help And I know I bought into it. And there are so many other people, because it's social impact, we all came together and started providing people with services. There are doctors, providing free services to people going through this. It's a pro bono service. So that's, by the way, that's what I'm saying about collaboration. When you collaborate, you have an idea, there is a developer that can develop, approach him. You can come up with a founders agreement where you can share percentage to say, oh, I rather have 1% of 100% of 100 than have 100 of 100. So you split it. I'm coming with, I would take 2%. Why don't you come with 5%? This business is viable. Let's do it. I own the IP though, but you own the processes. Let's do this. When profit comes in, this is how we do it. If someone wants to step out, there's a vesting clause there that says, oh, you might have to give up your rights, your shares. So you come up with that. You approach a lawyer, and there are ways to go about it. There are a lot of lawyers that can buy into you, because a lot of people want to go into tech, but they are wondering how to. So you approach the lawyers, and lawyers, you need to try, keep trying, and you approach people. You gather people together. Collaborations are key, and that's one of the benefits of being in this innovation hub, because it helps you with resources. It helps you. You can approach the hub and say, oh, this is my idea. This is what I want to do. Can I meet up with lawyers that can buy into my idea? And you do not have to even spend a dime. So collaborations are key. And you keep growing little by little. By the time you're done with the ideation, you move to the development part of it. That's the innovation part of it. And then you proceed. It's gradual. All I've put in my presentation is like an organization. It can be fast, but if you have the resources, or you can also take it slowly, and build on it. And then the second question was, you made mention of Flutterwave and having a business model that has an element of what they do. The thing is, you can have your idea on how you want to push it out, but it's essential that you have to understand what the regulations and what the parameters are, so that you can fashion your business in a sustainable way. So there are different parameters. There are cost considerations when you're coming up with your business. So you need to have the holistic look at it, so that you can come up with the best option for you, considering what you have currently. And then you can also decide to collaborate with people that already have the licenses. It's a big cost to get the licenses. And so I would advise that you look at different options. And that would be, I would also add that there is a CBN regulation. You should also go on it and read up the parameters of each of those licenses. And then if you need further information, you can also reach out to me, and then I can help you, to say, okay, this is the best option available for you at this point. But the thing is, be patient. That's what I would tell you, so that you can take the right steps. You need to take the right steps for your business, have the right people that will advise you, your product managers, your business analysts. You need to have a strategy. It's not just about having an idea. So thank you very much.
Yeah, fantastic. And just to add to that, first of all, I'm sure she's going to join our Telegram group. The link is already on the chat. So she's going to join there. And I'm expecting that you're also there. So if you actually want to reach out to her again, you can just obviously, ask me for, or ask anyone, or ask for a connection or a reconnection. And we can just reference her to you and once again. So, but just to, add to what she has said, can you share the links again, admin, please? Share it again, so someone could ask you for the links. So the issue that I've faced with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially at the early stage. I think because they are small, that somehow the universe is going to exempt them from bad luck because they're the small guy and they are to fighting against the big guys. And because of that, the whole David and Goliath fight, and somehow David will always shall win. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that in business, right? It doesn't work like that. The business world is a very, very brutal world. And sometimes you just get, you will get taken advantage of if you don't have the right backing. So the fact that you're a small business and you can't afford, you think you can't afford a lawyer, or you can't afford to register your IP or your product, that somehow gives you some form of plot armor to go and do what you like. It doesn't work like that. They can steal your idea, they will rip you off. It's just the fact that it's not personal, it's just business. It's a popular phrase that says so. So what that means is that if you have a unique idea that you do not want to be stolen, you don't want to share, you have to find a way to register the idea. Just like the same way, if you have an idea and you don't have a developer to build the idea, you will find a way to find a developer to build the idea, because if that's the developer building the idea does not exist. You also need to consider the fact that if you don't register that idea, your idea is exposed and you can be stolen and taken advantage of. So it's something that you must consider when you are building your products. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. So the excuse of, oh, I'm small, I don't have I saw another question saying that I can't afford a lawyer. Trust me, there are options for you. There are firms that even offer legal services for equity, if you're ready to look for, right? There are lawyers, there are friends you can leverage on. The lawyers even accept debt equity as part of their services. They can do it for you for free. You owe them and you pay them a certain amount at that particular point in time. It's too many things are available. I mean, I've engaged so many of them and I know how it works. But to say that because you're a small company or you can't afford it, or you think lawyers are like, I mean, Nigerians take lawyers like doctors. They think, oh, if you can avoid them, save your money. It's risky, right? You're putting yourself at risk, and you're just going to be, foiling another person's dream by just giving him an easy way to just do the idea, and if you can patent it, and that's the end of it. And so fortunately, but that's where it is. So you really need to put that into consideration when you are building your business from scratch. All right, so I think that's the last question for today. We're way past our time, and it's been fantastic. And it's been a while I've seen this from. I mean, this is a good way to start the year. It's in fact a while I see this kind of engagement and something as technical as legal matters. I mean, we only get kind of engagement when we're talking about generating income, and I'm glad that we are engaging in this, because it's very, very important and something that we should really look at, really. And I'm grateful that we are all taking this in and really, trying to understand what this is about, and really look forward to implementing this in our businesses, right? So at this point, I would like to call an end to this. But before I go, of course, I'm going to ask my question. And Tosin, I'm going to crave your indulgence. Fortunately, your video is not working, but I'm going to crave your indulgence to asking the questions. I'm going to have to require that you select the person who gets, who you, in your mind, gets the correct answer first. Okay. Do you have your agreement?
Yes.
All right, cool. It's going to be fun. Trust me. So I'm asking the question now. So please, first person to get your answer correct. Come on. This is why I say we should pay attention. Yay, someone got it right. But he didn't spell it right. Tosin, have you seen a winner?
Well, let's see.
You're not sure?
Well, the non-poaching clause ideally will be in any of the agreements with the investors. So it could be in the NDA.
Okay.
So it's not an agreement.
Okay, it's just a clause. Okay.
Just a clause. But also there's the MOU, which is not binding. That would be like a term sheet. I didn't mention that during my presentation, but that's the MOU. That's like a term sheet.
So who do you think is right? Who do you think has the best answer?
Jubril remembers my presentation. I have the non-poaching clause there. However, Timmy also mentioned MOU. And that MOU is very, very important for the investors to protect your business. It's like a term sheet. It's also non-binding. So
we're using MOU, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking MOU.
All right. So congratulations,
Sorry,
Timmy.
Jubril.
Nice. Sorry, Jubril. So congratulations, Timmy. I'm going to put my number up now. Right there. So please send me a message on WhatsApp. Send me your phone number, your preferred network, and I'll send you your credit. Thank you so much, everyone. This has been a fantastic first Techbiz of the year. I'm hoping to see you again next week when we have another speaker, and I hope it will be as good as today's. By God's grace, it may be even better. But thank you very much. I'm grateful to the speaker for coming around, for giving her time and her expertise. And I hope she joins our Telegram group so you can be able to ask her follow-up questions and so on and so forth. So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you, Tosin. Thank you for coming. Thanks to everyone. So I'll see you guys next week. Have a wonderful year, and I pray that 2022 will give you the best that you've ever had. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful night.